Today I want to talk about products so good I have more than one. Some of these items are actually repurchases, so I don't currently have more than one in my collection, but a lot of them I do. And I want to mention that these are not products that I purchased two of at the time that I purchased them to try them for the first time. I do have a ton of those in my collection, especially in purchases from the last year, because I started my channel in July of last year, so almost 1 year coming up next month. Those products that I've been testing on my channel have been products that I picked up one or two shades to test them out, like test the formula out for the first time. These are all products where I went back because the formulation or like the shade or just the finish of it was so good that I needed more than one, which is actually quite unusual in my collection. So anything that I purchase to test on YouTube, I actually try and think of shades that I would really get enjoyment out of and not just like buying the whole line so that I can test them on camera. There's only like a handful of things that I've actually done that with. So all of these products are products that I went back for, and not just for testing on my channel, but because I genuinely loved the formula or the shade and went back and purchased on my own. Some of them I never even tested on camera for the first time. I just tested privately. So that's what I want to talk about today. If you are a returning viewer on my channel, you have probably seen me talk about these products before, and you've probably heard me talk about them as some of my like really loved products. But if you are new to my channel, welcome in. I hope that you subscribe. If you guys enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up and let's hop right into it. So I did do cutaways on this, you guys. So I want to talk about everything in the order of which I applied them so you can see the cutaways as I'm putting them on. So we will go in order of how I applied them to my face. So the first product that I want to talk about is the Benefit Precisely My Brow. If you guys have watched any of my videos, I talk about this pretty religiously. This is a brow product that I can't really find an absolute duplication for. It's a product that I love the shade so much, and that's such a big deal for me. I find a lot of brow pencils are really dark in their taupe shades or medium brown shades, or they're just straight up too warm on me. Benefit Precisely My Brow, I feel like, has one of the better shade ranges in their line, and I can actually rotate between two of the shades, 2.5 and 3. I like 3 when I'm wearing maybe a darker eye look, but for everyday wear, I do like the 2.5. In terms of the formulation, like the formulation is so good. It's not overly creamy, but it's not an overly stiff pencil either. I personally like this kind of product because I use these microfine brow pencils all the time, and so that's pretty much all I'm purchasing. So the formulation for me is like just perfect. It's like right in between. It's also waterproof, which is something that I need here in Florida. This is my holy grail. I have a couple in my collection, my beauty empties, that I've gone through, and I have this one left. This one is in 3, and if you are somebody that like microfine brow pencils, I just think that that one's just an overall winner. I have so many eyeshadows in my collection, you guys, that I have gone back to repurchase many times from the same brand, but one that I want to talk about today is the one I'm wearing on my eyes, and it's a more recent purchase. I've been raving about them on my channel. I've done a ton of videos with them. These are the MAC Connect and Color eyeshadow palettes. So they recently launched these. They did, I think, 3 in the larger 12 pan versions and then 4 in the smaller 6 pan versions. So when I originally started purchasing these, I picked up 2 to try on my channel. So I did pick up both of these at the same time. This one is called Future Flame. I will show you guys the color story. So that's Future Flame. I picked this one up along with this one, which is Embedded in Burgundy. This is the one that I'm wearing on my eyes today. But then I liked them so much that I ended up going back for a third all by itself, which was Rose Lens. And then I needed another one, so I went back again and picked up Bronze Influence. And here's the color story on that one. I have to say that the Rose Lens one is my least favorite, but my favorite is Embedded in Burgundy, which I have on my eyes today. I just think that this matte formula is amazing. It really doesn't matter how badly I screw up the eye look. It seems to blend perfectly. The thing with these shadows is they might be pigmented, but they're also super buildable, and they're super blendable. A lot of times when I'm dealing with deeper shades, especially cool tones, that it looks patchy or it's over pigmented and it's not blendable enough, or the shadow itself just over blends. None of that happens with these shadows. These mattes have been some of my favorite mattes to reach for. That's why I did want to bring these up. The shimmers, however, are definitely on the lighter side. I've mentioned this several times, and I would say that they're work appropriate and like wedding appropriate. I did make that comment in my last video trying one of these eyeshadow palettes. So I think the shimmers are good. if you like something a little bit softer, I ended up using a different single shimmer for my single collection today, just because I wanted something a little bit more punchy because these shimmers are just very, very muted. But overall, it's the matte formulation that gets me for this. It's every single time, it's such a beautiful, beautiful eye look that, yeah, I kept going back. I think I'm pretty much done buying these. However, I'm definitely tempted to go back and buy some more to finish the collection, but I think I'm gonna refrain. I think I like what I have and I'm definitely content, but good quality overall, you guys. If you're interested in this launch and haven't already picked it up, I'd say go look at the color stories, see which ones you like. They're definitely worth getting. I do not have a foundation in this video. The reason that I don't is because foundations last a really long time. I do have some pretty holy grail foundations at this point, and so if you are interested in seeing my top 10 foundations, I will go ahead and link that video up top. Those are the foundations that I'm currently in love with and obsessed with. I haven't actually repurchased a foundation in a really long time. Foundations and concealers are just products that you really do need to chuck when they go bad. And so I always feel like this obligation to like get use out of every single one of them instead of sticking to one. So I did just use today one of the ones that I'm really loving, which is the L'Oreal True Match, but I've not repurchased this. This is a new release. So let's jump into concealers. So the first concealer that I want to talk about is the LYS Triple Fix Full Coverage Brightening Concealer. I do not actually talk about this a lot on my channel, but I have mentioned it as like my top 10 Sephora repurchases. And honestly, I feel like I've been loving this concealer more and more lately. I do have a backup of it. I do not have a backup of any of my other concealers. However, I have repurchased one other that I'm going to talk about today. I do not think this is a full coverage concealer, and I have mentioned that before. It's affordable, it's super lightweight, it's ultra creamy, and it doesn't crease. So if you like something that is medium, light to medium coverage, but is buildable, I think this is a really, really good concealer. And it's one of the few that really, really doesn't crease, especially on my right eye where I get more creasing. For whatever reason, I just seem to have more lines on that eye. I didn't love this when I first tried it. I've just come to love it more recently. I have a backup of it, you guys. It was so good. I did go back for more. Just very few concealers that I really do that with because they do last quite a bit. And by the way, I have mine in the shade LN6. Let's move on into the one concealer that I have repurchased. There's literally only one concealer that I've repurchased, especially in the last couple of years. And I do not talk about this on my channel, and it's just an overall kind of tried and true concealer for me. And I think it performs very similarly to the LYS concealer. This is the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. It's just really good in the same way that LYS concealer is. It's light to medium coverage. It doesn't seem to crease. It's just kind of an uncomplicated product. And yeah, this is my second one. I just think that there is a time and a place for finding something that's like super trusty. I think I look at a lot of my concealers and go, okay, which one do I want to wear for today? And sometimes it's just to get use out of it. But when I'm really thinking of like a trusty concealer that I know isn't going to give me any complications, it's usually this one or the LYS. Next, I want to talk about powders. I know that powders for me have changed in terms of preference in like the last 8 months. I used to battle super dry skin, and I still do to some degree. I just moisturize quite a bit more than I used to. And I can tell that my hormones are definitely changing to the point where my skin is kind of changing. I used to battle hormonal acne that would come on the bottom of my chin. I also fought with like cystic acne. I have a lot of like texture on my chin left over from that. I used to get extremely dry nose. It would get like flaky. I had trouble with powders on my skin. Like everything just looked too heavy and it emphasized a lot of the dryness. Most of the time I would go without using powders, but I would try to, because here in Florida you do still sweat a little bit. And so I tried to mattify slightly so I would lock down some of my foundation. Now I'm just battling more oiliness in the T-zone. I'm not fighting hormonal or cystic acne anymore. But the powder that I want to talk about is actually a powder that I fell in love with back when I really had dry skin. And I have been loving it even more lately. So if that tells you guys like the trajectory of how this powder has been a favorite of mine during the dry skin period and still a favorite of mine into the more normal combo skin period, that should tell you something. So this one is the Flower Better Not Bitter powder from Beauty Bakery. And here is my backup. These are not only just adorable, but they also work really well. I have mine in the shade Oat Translucent. This does have talc in it. So for those of you who do not like talc or you're more dry skinned, talc generally will dry out the skin even more. So this is a really good powder for oil control. But usually the ones that are talc free, they do wear off here in Florida anyway because of the sweat much quicker than the ones that do have talc. I'm not opposed to using talc, and talc just happens not to irritate my face. So if you get irritated by that, you probably wouldn't like this powder. Otherwise, you guys, I think this powder was so good even when I had dry skin. It's even better now that I have like normal skin. I find that it offers a little bit of coverage. It's really smoothing. It's very airbrushing. It just looks really good on the skin and is great for oil control. So yes, I do have two. Yes, I went back. At the time when I repurchased this, I have to tell you guys, I probably had like 4 powders in my whole collection. So now I have a ton more because I'm trying a bunch. This is still out of all those powders, one of my favorites. I actually jumped into lashes next because that's just how I applied them. So I have talked about these and I have talked about loving these. These are the Lily lashes. These are the 3D foaming Lily lashes. These are half lashes. You guys, I have repurchased this so many times, I don't even know how many. I end up cutting down regular size lashes so much. Like half the lash ends up coming off and it works for my entire eye. If you are a small-eyed person, I think you would really enjoy these. I also find that I don't care for super thick bands. I don't care for super thin. I prefer something that's like right in the middle. I just find those a little bit easier to work with. I find that the Lily lashes, for whatever reason, their band is like perfect. And I always get the lashes to stick on the first try. These have been my favorite half lashes. They're also like not necessarily half lashes for me, and that's part of the reason that I really do enjoy them because I do have smaller eyes. I do not see a lot of people on YouTube that wear lashes have smaller eyes. I found these on a whim. I've just been looking for like what lashes are gonna end up being my preference and landed on those. Oh, and I forgot to mention they are in the style Dreamy. I have just been loving those. So even though I did not put on mascara today, I do want to talk about my Holy Grail mascaras. I have talked about these at pretty good length on my channel. The first one that I want to talk about is the Essence Lash Princess. This is my favorite drugstore mascara. It's not only my favorite drugstore mascara, it's probably one of my favorites of all time, the False Effect mascara. It's just pigmented. It emphasizes my length on my lashes. It gives really good volume. I really love the wand. It's more like a natural wand that doesn't hurt, so I can get really close to the lash line. The only issue with this is if it's on a super hot day here in Florida, it will transfer. I do not find it transferring in the winter months when I'm not really sweating. I just have the issue when it's much hotter outside. That's the only thing with this mascara, but this, for me, I think this is my third tube. The next one that I want to talk about is my second tube. This is the Liquid Lash Extensions from Thrive Cosmetics. This is honestly like my favorite tubing mascara. I like that the wand is smaller because for whatever reason, I really prefer these really short bristles. I just can get really close to the lash line with them. There's so much pigment on this. It gives really good length, but I also think that it provides some volume. It's just a really good tubing mascara, honestly. The next one is, I think, probably my favorite mascara in the whole world. This is the Lawless The One and Done mascara. This wand is also really small bristles, a lot like the Thrive Cosmetics, but the wand is much more pliable. You get a ball at the end of it, so it actually applies to like the inner and outer corner really easily. This is a extremely pigmented mascara. I can honestly do my lashes injustice when I use this because if I don't get close enough to my lash line, you can see where I started the mascara because it's so pigmented. It's so lengthening, it's so volumizing, it's thickening. It's just the kind of mascara that I like. Don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but it is totally my holy grail. It is my favorite mascara. This is my third tube. The next one is a newer release. So this one I have repurchased once already, and even though it's a fairly new release, this is the Make Waves mascara from Tower 28. This wand is so unassuming. It doesn't look like it has a whole lot of product, and honestly, when you pull it out of the tube, it seems like it's gonna be a drier formula, but it's so pigmented. It gives such good length and volume. I think it's really good for the lower and upper lashes. There's just something about this mascara that honestly does everything that most people want in a mascara without looking like it would do shit. So it's a really good mascara. I can't already believe that I've gone through a whole tube of this. This is kind of like feels like it's on the drier side anyway. There isn't like a whole ton of product. This is kind of a smaller tube. So I finished that one off like right away because it was like the only one I was reaching for, and I could tell that I just like had cleaned that bottle out. So this is my second one. The only thing that I will say about this mascara is that I do not love the wand. The wand is really difficult for me to get super close to my lash line because it's a little bit harder of a wand. Like it's a plastic wand, it's not natural bristled or anything, and it does have some pretty like pointy things on the wand itself, and so I do kind of stab my eye a little bit. That's the only thing with this. Otherwise, they're all great. I love the Tower 28 one. They're all great. Let's talk about bronzers slash contours. I actually have two, in sets of two, that I want to talk about. The first one that I want to talk about is the Rare Beauty Stick Bronzer. I originally started out with the shade Power Boost on her first release, and this one is meant for like neutral undertones, but it had a lot of warmth in it. I really do like this formula, like a lot. I know that some people say that it's a little bit too creamy and too slick for their liking. I really enjoy that about it. I think there's a time and a place for a bronzer that's just really, really creamy, and you can easily set this down so it's not one that just fades off very quickly, but I love the blendability about it. I loved it so much I ended up going back for her new launch, which was in the shade Bright Side. These are like both the shades that I would use for my fair skin tone, but this one is more on the cool toned undertone of her stick bronzers. This is my favorite stick bronzer for contouring underneath the chin, for sculpting out the chin. I do prefer to use a stick contour for under the chin, and none of my other ones are as creamy as this one, and so when I'm running under the chin, like that's a really sensitive area of the face, and so I prefer something that's on the really, really creamy side, and this one is. That's why I love this one over some of my other ones. It wasn't necessarily just to test out a more neutral tone. I just loved the formula of the original so much that I needed to go back for a neutral because I think it's really good for shaping. But anyway, favorite stick contour slash bronzer for the chin sculpting. Yes, for both shades, for different reasons. The next one that I have is from the same brand, but it's slightly different. These are two of the like bronzer and contour from Tower 28. The one that I am putting on today is the sculpting product. They do call this like sculpt slash contour. I even think they call it like slash a bronzer as well. It is their Sculptino. It's in the shade Broad. I didn't think that I was gonna like this as much as I did. It's definitely not the same formula as their Bronzino. I think it's a little bit of a harder formula, but it's also still creamy and emollient. It's just super easy to blend in, and the shade is just awesome. It's just a super easy product to work with, and honestly, it's like the perfect shade for me in terms of like something that's more neutral for bronzing. I don't necessarily think that I find that it's great for like sculpting. It's maybe on the lighter side for that, so I could go up a shade, I think, but I think I prefer this more as a bronzer. But this came second. I had the Bronzino first. That's why I do want to include it in today's video, because I think that this formula from Tower 28 is just awesome. The Bronzino, however, is a little bit more emollient than I think the Sculptino is. I think it's a little bit of a tackier, stickier, not as like super blendable, kind of radiant, lots of words in there, finish or formulation. But anyway, they're great for different reasons. I definitely picked this up on launch day because I loved this one so much. I just don't think that you can go wrong with these depending upon what you're looking for. Let's move on into blushes. If you've seen any of my videos or looked at any of my content, I'm pretty much obsessed with blush at the current moment, just testing all new formulas. Liquid and Cream has got my heart right now. These are not all Liquid and Cream. I do have two powders in here. These are all blushes that I started with one and I loved the formulation so much I went back and got a second. So none of these I bought duplicates of the first time I tried them. So the first one that I want to talk about is the Heaven's Glow blush from M Cosmetics. The one that I'm putting on today is in Venetian Rose. These are so beautiful. I can't even like tell you how perfect I think these blushes are for my preferences. They're pigmented. They're like staining. They do stain my hands when I swatch them. They stain my cheeks just a little bit. They also look like diffused and airbrushed, and they're really pigmented. They have this beautiful, beautiful sheen to them. I have had a lot of compliments or people asking me what blushes I'm using when I'm wearing these. I love the shades and the shade range. They're just like my perfect freaking blush. I started out with Venetian Rose and I went in for the Faded Clementine. I would even consider picking up other ones. There's just so much product in here that it probably take me a lifetime to get through them. I love these so much. If you guys have not tried this formula, I do not think you would be disappointed if you like a little bit of a sheen, but you also like pigment, but you like your blush to last. All right, let's go into a cream blush next. So the first one that I want to talk about in the cream blush department is the Cream Cheek and Lip Color from Honest Beauty. When I picked this up, you guys, I had heard nobody talking about these. Now I do hear people talking about them, but I think it's like one of my favorite drugstore cream blushes, or it was at the time when I had it. I think that these are like emollient on the top, but they're also like this really thick formula that's like super cream to powder staining formula. The pigment is just awesome. Part of the reason that I love cream blushes, like when they're really done well, is just how easy they are to apply. These are some of the easiest blushes. It doesn't matter if I go with a brush or if I go in with a sponge. I literally tap it in and then I like tap it onto my cheeks 3 times, and I feel like you've blended yourself, you've given me the pigmentation, and you're fully dry. So just a super easy formula to work with, honestly, if you're into cream to powder formulas. I started off with Rose Pink, the more pinky shade that I swatched for you, and I went back for Coral Peach as I started to get into more peachy blushes. Love those. Let's go into another drugstore powder formula. These are the Milani Baked Powder Blushes. I have the pink shade in Dolce Pink. I have the more corally shade in Luminoso. Luminoso is the one that I started with. I used to use this blush exclusively. I had 2 blushes in my collection. I had this one and one from Physicians Formula, and those are the only 2 blushes that I used every single day. This is back when all of my makeup fit in one little drawer that I probably shared with toothbrushes and toothpaste in my bathroom. Now it's like half of a room. But I still went back and ended up getting Dolce Pink after Luminoso. Honestly, these remind me a lot of the M Cosmetics blushes. They have that slight bit of radiance. They're both baked formula. They're almost staining. They're nice and pigmented. They're really easy to work with. The thing is, I don't think these are as pigmented as the M Cosmetics. Otherwise, they're almost the same exact formula. The next 2 that I want to talk about are both cream blushes. So the first one is from Melt. This is one of their cream blush lights. I have like the more orangey shade in Honey Thief and the more pink one in Pink Sand. I haven't found anything that matches the formula on this. You guys, these are some of the most emollient cream blushes that I have in my collection, but they're also like this whipped consistency. There's just so much that picks up when you swatch them and onto a brush. I think that they're like this really odd formulation and that they're almost like super whipped, even though they're really emollient. I have some putty blushes that remind me of these, except this is way more emollient. So I don't know how they formulate it like with such voodoo, but these are definitely unmatched in my collection. I have tried to find affordable ones and high-end ones that are just as creamy as this formula is, and I just haven't found anything, but it's like thick. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's just extremely thick while being like this super opaque, really pigmented, really easy to work with formula that like dries down. So yes, I started with, I don't know which one I got first, but I ended up loving it so much I immediately went back after trying it and picking up a different shade. I would say that these shades aren't that different, but still I kind of get an orangey coral option and then a more pinky option. If you have not tried these, you should. The next one I want to talk about is actually like one that I feel like has really mixed reviews out there in the beauty space. This is the Cheek Freak blush from About Face. I immediately like fell in love with this. I don't know which one I had first, but the more deeper orange is in Raunchy and the lighter orange is in Quickie. These are like a blush balm, but even for a balm, they're really pigmented, they're really emollient, and they are like this cream to powder finish. It almost feels like it's like formulated with oils in it. I mean, these both are like made in Italy. These shades, again, are not very different. She has some awesome shades in her line, like a really good range, really good tones, really fun colors. I would even think about going back and getting some of those fun, brighter colors. I don't have any issues with this formulation, you guys. I find it quite pigmented and it never gets patchy. Let us move on into highlighters. I only have one highlighter here, and I recently just did a highlighter ranking of all my highlighters in my collection, and so there are a lot of formulas that I enjoy. There's only one that I loved so much, I went back for a different shade. So this is the Bobbi Brown Highlighting Powder. I started with Pink Glow, and I had eyed this for so long because I loved the marbleization. I just thought it looked good in the photos online. Then when I tried it, you guys, it's one of the most like natural looking, super punchy, and again, just this really lovely baked formula that's pretty freaking long lasting, that has like this icy finish. It's such a good formulated, like super smooth highlighter. So yeah, started out with Pink Glow, and then when they launched Peach Glow, I was like, well, I'm definitely getting a different shade, because at the time I think this was my favorite highlighter. These are pricey. These are over $50 now. When I purchased these, they were $50, but I bet you they're like $52 now with inflation. They're just so soft and so smooth and so light reflecting, but still sink into the skin. These are the only like really expensive products that I went back to purchase purposefully instead of I was just on their website placing a different order. We are now on to lip products. This is the only lip liner that I have ever gone back to get other shades after trying it, but I do have several in my collection that are really good, but I ended up buying all of those shades the first time that I bought them just because I heard that the formula was really good. These are the Juvia's Place Luxe lip liners. I do not wear lip liners that much, but when I do, I prefer a retractable one over a pencil. I actually have 4 shades of the Juvia's Place, and I feel like I started out with 1 and then I went back and got 3 more is how I ended up purchasing them. I'll list the shades in the description box, you guys, but I have talked about these before. Juvia's Place does such a good job with their lip formulations that I feel like I would recommend them to anybody. They're long lasting, but they're really creamy too. I don't know what else you can say about a lip liner. Like if you're gonna use it, it needs to hold its own pigment and it needs to be creamy enough that it doesn't hurt. So as far as like all the things that I really look for in a lip liner, like Juvia's Place does it. Plus, I feel like they're really affordable. Lip liners can get pretty expensive sometimes. I feel like with lip liners, I would love to reach for a more affordable one over one that's more expensive, just because I don't use them that often. These are the only lip liners I feel like I've gone back to get more of. I wanna go into lip products next. These ones that I wanna talk about next is the one that I'm wearing today. These are the lifter glosses. I have 5 of them. I've actually had more than this in my collection. I had, let's see, I had another one of the ones from like, I think the original launch. And then I had 2 others for their more recent launch. Yeah, because they came out with 5. Just kidding, I had 1 other one from their newest releases. I think these are the Candy Drop. The one that I'm wearing today is in the shade Petal. The silvery one is called Pearl. The lighter peach is Peach Ring. The deeper plum color is called Taffy. And the brighter orange is called Sweetheart. I would have to say, I think these are my favorite lip gloss formula ever. They're really long lasting. You can build them up to be thick, but I just don't think they're goopy. There is one other one in here that's very, very similar, but it's just a kind of like thicker, stickier formula. I just find that these are really, really smooth on the lips. They're also very light reflecting. They come in fun shades. They're fairly affordable. I love the packaging. I love these. Probably my favorite glosses, you guys. I started with 1. I started with Petal, went back for Pearl, went back for the other shade. Then I got the Candy Drop collection, and then I think I just placed an order for the remainder of the Candy Drop collection. I just keep going back. I just love that now I have a collection of just different shades. And aside from these 2, they're all just very different and very beautiful. Honestly, I think they're better than the Fenty Gloss Bombs. I have to say, I think the Fenty Gloss Bombs tend to like kind of pill up on me because they're just thicker than these ones are. They're so good, you guys. They're like everything that I would want in a gloss, honestly. Right here. The next ones that I have are the Moistureglow Plumping Lip Serums from Makeup by Mario. And I actually started out with 2 shades in this. I think I had Plum Glow and Mocha Glow, and I had these in my car for like the longest time. They were just so beautiful on. They're just super glossy formula. They're extremely pigmented. The only thing with these is that they don't last on my lips very long because I end up loving the formula and how smooth they feel so much that I end up rubbing my lips together. But because I loved that formula so much, I ended up going back for Apricot Glow. So not all 3 shades started out with me, and these didn't even finish. I just was like, hey, I need a different shade, maybe something that's a little bit lighter because I love this formula so much, but I find that these 2 shades were really, really dark. So I went in for a lighter shade. I love all 3 of those. The next ones that I have are pretty bougie. These are from YSL. I feel like I have talked about these in my like Sephora top 10 Sephora products or whatever, but these are a little bit different. And this is a limited edition one. This was the Rock and Shine, when normally they're called the Volupti Shines, I think is how you pronounce it. These are like an unmatched formula in terms of like high end that I have that I just love. They're just so smooth. They're like summer in a tiny little bullet. They all smell like pina colada. They're so smoothing and like juicy. They're not overly pigmented. They're more on the sheer side, but they're just like little parties in a bottle. Plus the bullet is freaking cute and adorable. They're just such a comfortable kind of hybrid formula. They're like a gloss, like a balm, like a lipstick all in one. I don't even know what shade I have these in. I think it's 88 in the Volupte Shine, and I think it's 01 in the Rock and Shine, which was a limited edition one. And it had like a star in the middle. It was like a silver star, so it gave your lips like a little bit of sparkle too. Anyway, I just love those. The final ones are the ones that I was referencing, the Fenty Gloss Bombs. I actually started out with the Fenty Glow, and then more recently when Glass Slipper launched, I did purchase this. I would not say that these are my absolute favorite formula. Like I mentioned before, I think the Maybelline lifter glosses are better than these, but these are excellent glosses. I haven't tried the cream formula. I haven't tried any other formula from Fenty in terms of the variation of these that have come out. I've only tried the gloss bombs. I think that they are beautiful and super light reflecting and pigmented and like milky in a really good way. I just have a tendency to go in too heavy with this, and then it gets like a little bit like tacky on my lips. Like I can tend to go in too heavy with these, so I do prefer the Maybelline lifter glosses, but these are also super good. I started with this one, went back for this one, and anytime it's an intentional, I went back for a different shade and wasn't just satisfied with the one I have. That's what I wanted to include in today's video. So that is it. That's a wrap, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'd love to hear in the comments if you guys have tried any of these or just your thoughts on them. I am out of here, you guys, and I will catch you all in my next video. Bye.